So Bartek have invented these WindWings, which reduces the need for heavy fuel oil, or indeed any fuel oil, by 1.5 tons of fuel per WindWing per day. So that's really substantial.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gothberg. Hello, Shipping Podcast listeners, and welcome to episode 228. Wind-assisted propulsion is hot right now. Or it has been for a while, but now we are starting to see this in real life, and not just on the drawing table. Berge Olympus is now the world's most powerful sailing cargo ship. She carries 4 retrofitted Bartek WindWings by Yara Marine Technologies. In episode 228, I had the pleasure of speaking with John Cooper, the CEO of Bar Technologies.
Every conversation
matters.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, Lena. My name's John Cooper. I'm the CEO of BAR Technologies.
And what is your background?
I've got a varied background. I'm actually an accountant by trade, chartered accountant with Ernst & Young back in the day, and then I left with a short stint in car rental, actually, as an accountant again. And then I joined a motor racing team called McLaren Racing and became a little bit more commercial, finding partners for their Formula One car and bringing technology into the business. And that really sparked my passion for sustainability, as in bringing really good technology to the world. So Formula One is pretty famous for racing, but actually it should also be famous for some of the innovations that were brought to the car trade, the automotive trade from Formula One. And then I left Formula One in 2019 and became the CEO of BAR Technologies.
So how did you come in contact with shipping? How did you get to know about our industry?
Yeah, there was a team principal guy named Martin Whitmarsh, actually, at McLaren, and I worked very closely and very well with him. And he left in 2014 to become the CEO of the British America's Cup team, BAR Racing. And that was headed by Ben Ainsley, the most successful sailor of all time, actually. And they together ran BAR Racing, together with a chief engineer guy named Simon Schofield. And Martin and Ben actually invited me to become part of the team. I wasn't ready to leave car racing at the time, so I declined that offer. But then in 2019, when Martin approached me again and said, how about coming to do some technology work, because we've spun out this company called BAR Technologies, I said, yep, now's the time to do that, and came and joined him. And he's now my chairman. I'm the CEO. And the co-founder, Simon Schofield, is the chief technology officer. So we all run that together.
The reason for me asking is, we are not the best industry in the world to actually promote ourselves to the young people. So that is why I ask all my guests, how did you get to know about us? And most of the people, step on that famous banana leaf and by accident just fall into our industry and get the bug, and they never leave again.
Yeah, it is an interesting industry. And I think, obviously, if it wasn't my time working with Martin, I wouldn't be in the industry, or probably not. But the way that people view the industry is incredibly interesting. I have 2 children. My son, a guy called Maxwell, he said, why are you leaving Formula One? Are you mad? And my daughter said, good on you, Dad. This looks like a real sustainable industry. You can make a big difference. Now I'm more proud of you than when you were in Formula One. So, big family differential as well. But it's the children, that we owe this to. We've got to make this business more sustainable, save more fuel, reduce CO2 emissions, and actually in family driven, that's from the children rather than anybody else.
I totally agree with you. And that is also why it's important that we tell the world about all the interesting stuff that we are doing. What do you do at BAR Technologies?
What I do is I feel a little bit of a fraud, actually, because, I'm the CEO. I'm definitely the least clever person in the building. We've got a lot of brilliant engineers, whether they're software engineers, design engineers, stress engineers, maths, software control engineers. There's some really very clever people around me, and I've got the great pleasure in actually giving them some direction, commercializing their output. And actually, I'm quite a passionate salesperson, so I love it when we've got product, and then I can go and tell people tell people about it, and that's why I'm with you today, Lena.
But there are a lot of engineers in your company.
Yeah, we are predominantly engineers. We like to collect engineers from different industries. It's a British company and we're proud of that. But actually, I should really count how many nationalities we have around us. But actually, there are lots. We believe in hiring the best people and trying to bring them to BAR Technologies. And they go, I said BAR Technologies then. So we bring them into BAR Technologies and help them flourish amongst the rest of our crew. And actually they bring with them some culture, which is always interesting, and they bring with them new ideas. It's a very good thing to bring lots of different people, males and females. Actually we've got healthy contingent of females, which is something the engineering community needs to be better at, and definitely the shipping community. So we're trying to do a bit for that side as well.
So what have you been doing lately? There is a lot of innovation going on in the industry right now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. We specialize in that. Our strapline is simulation-based marine innovation. So, we absolutely invent and commercialize. So we're lucky enough that when Martin and Simon founded the business in 2017, they brought across a lot of the tool sets that have been developed for the America's Cup, and we've used them as a base point to design and develop our own family of products. And we're in 3 or 4 different streams. We've got a beautiful electric flying boat out there. That's definitely the future of leisure marine. If you want to use electricity, good clean electricity, and plug your boat in like you would do your car, it's got to fly because you've got to reduce the drag of the hull. So we've got a line in doing that, and we've done our own boats, and we're looking to partner other people, and there's some more announcements on that. Martin is or was the president of the Offshore Wind Growth Partnership, something that's really stimulates growth in the North Sea in terms of offshore wind. And he identified an area that we might like to have a look at, in the fact that the beautiful green wind farms are serviced by diesel catamarans, and we wanted to do a bit for that. So we've designed, developed and delivered for Equinor a very efficient hull form and a very stable hull form, letting these electricians and technicians go to the wind farms efficiently, but also in a more healthy way, so they arrive ready for work rather than seasick. So we've done a bit of that. And most recently, we've moved into big shipping. So we are just about to announce a second vessel for WindWings, which is a product for wind-assisted propulsion for large bulkers and tankers. So the Berge Bulk, the Berge Olympus by Berge Bulk will be launched, and that's a Newcastle Max with 4 of these WindWings on, integrated by Delta Marine and patented WindWings by Bartek.
So that is sort of retrofitting existing ships, putting on sails. So it's not a new building.
That's absolutely right. So we've got 2 vessels now, one called the Pyxis Ocean, owned by Mitsubishi Shipping, and the second, the Berge Olympus by Berge Bulk. The first is a Kamsarmax, so, pretty big ship, 230 meters long. And the second, a much bigger ship, actually, a Newcastle Max, and that has 4 wings on, and they'll both be trading Brazil, China initially. In fact, the Pyxis Ocean is now on its way to Poland, full of grain, and the Berge Bulk will leave for Brazil next week.
So how much does it save on the fuel, or how do you put that in a perspective? Why do you put sails on the ship? I mean, if we start there.
Well, absolutely. I mean, obviously we're both not old enough to remember proper sails on ships. But of course they used to be on the trade routes, and we used to bring spices and vegetables around the world by sailing. And of course then the combustion engine was invented and did away with sails in the short term. And we developed those combustion engines around the horrible fuel that is heavy fuel oil, the dregs of the refinery. Nothing, shipping can't do anything about that, but we have been lumbered with the worst fuel on the planet, and therefore we need to change something. So Bartek have invented these WindWings, which reduces the need for heavy fuel oil, or indeed any fuel oil, by 1.5 tons of fuel per WindWing per day. So that's really substantial. We're not marketeers, we're engineers. So we refuse to get involved with what is the curse of the wind propulsion industry, over elaborating and exaggerating the savings. We're lucky enough to have the best performance in the industry, I believe, by a long way. And we'll be saving 1.5 tons of fuel per WindWing per day. So that Newcastle Max on the way to Brazil or on the way to a worldwide route. So it's important to note that's a worldwide route. We'll be saving 6 tons of fuel a day by having 4 Bartek WindWings on it. Now, on that route, got to say, Lena, that Singapore leg to the Brazil leg, it's a lot more than 1.5 tons. So that's where we don't get involved in the headline numbers. Open ocean quite naturally has got lots of wind. So that vessel will be going through the Indian Ocean and then the Atlantic Ocean, and then the fuel savings are very big indeed. But we market at 1.5 tons because vessels aren't always in the open ocean. They're sometimes in canals, they're sometimes in traffic separation areas where we take the wings down for safety reasons, of course, and we include all of that into our average. And sometimes the wind is even too strong to harness all of it. So we depower the wings and we stay away from those headline numbers. And actually, we quite rightly state that on a worldwide route, we're 1.5 tons. And in fact, those first voyages, it would indicate that the actual savings are just a little bit above that. So we've got some, we can do a bit more marketing later on and actually state to the world what the actual savings are. And they're a little bit better than we've claimed, which is good news.
Yeah, that's interesting for a ship owner, of course, or a ship manager to both be able to be a little bit more environmentally friendly and also to save some money on the bottom line.
Exactly. It's important to note that 1.5 tons of fuel oil, that's the same as 4.6 tons of CO2 emitted. So when you're saving 6 tons of fuel oil, you're saving nearly 19 tons of CO2. And if Swedish people are pretty similar to the UK people. You mentioned earlier that the weather comes to Sweden from the UK, but we're a pretty similar nation in terms of our carbon footprint. So every day we're saving 19 tons of fuel. That's the equivalent of the emissions of 2 people every day when they're emitting for the whole year. So it is significant. It's really significant.
So what about the seafarers? Do they get some training on these sails? Because that's a new thing for them, I would imagine.
Absolutely. No sailors required, but actually we do train them. We train them in the maintenance of the wings, which is very light, a little bit of greasing on the slew and a couple of the other bearings around the WindWing. But we do train them for interest as well as safety at sea. Their feedback is actually just of massive interest. They're not sailors, but actually they're intrigued by and proud to have the WindWings on board, both with the Mitsubishi ship and with Cargill as charterer and the Berge Bulk vessel. So we talk to the crew, yes, we believe the wings are the heroes, but actually they're very proud to have the wings on board. There's lots of reports of other merchant shipping giving them fantastic waves as they go through the Singapore Straits and the Malacca Straits, etc., etc. So, other people think these boats are cool. We're having a welcome party in Poland for the Cargill vessel. And actually, the ports are some of the stakeholders that we've worked hardest on, so they are ready to receive these hero ships. And I've got to tell you, Lena, the most heartwarming image I have of one of our vessels is the Brazilian port sending firefighting tugs out to greet the vessel with the shooting of salt water coming out the top of these firefighting tugs to welcome her to Brazil, which was pretty amazing when, 2 years ago, all of the ports were saying, well, that's going to take a bit more time. We don't want these fantastic boats in the port. So, wow, people are changing.
Yes, and rather quickly, I think, as well. But seeing is believing. I mean, that is part of it, isn't it?
Absolutely. My iPhone now is, of course, there are other phones available, but my iPhone is now full of pictures of boats with wings on it when it used to be cats, dogs, and children. So yeah, things are changing, that's for sure.
So how do we bring this into? I'm thinking about that. We are the hidden industry. We are the Cinderella industry. We do a lot, but no one sees us until we get to the ball. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. But I think that we're getting to the ball now. I think the coach has turned up and Cinderella's getting out, and we're getting lots of nice pictures of WindWings. And I think the general public are very interested. You know, we did a show at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, which is a very famous car racing or car festival in the UK, and we went along into the innovation tent, and you know, everybody was seriously interested. And you know, I couldn't manage to attend myself, but the staff that were attending said that people coming up and thanking them for changing the shipping industry. So I think that we are getting noticed. You know, our launch of the Pixels Ocean was on mainstream UK TV, mainstream Chinese TV, mainstream American TV. I myself was on the Richard Guest show, who was an absolute favourite of mine, which was my pleasure. So, you know, I think the mainstream press is not just brilliant podcasts such as yourself. It's not just Trade Winds. It's actually now the Times and the FT and the New York Times that are writing about Bartek WindWings. So the message is getting out there. You know, we will make it. Cinderella will go to the ball, as you say.
Yeah, but I mean, you do the right thing. You're talking to people outside our industry about us. We have a tendency to talk to each other because we really like that. And then we are in our own home backyard, so to say. So we can talk about what we know to each other who already knows everything anyhow.
Yeah, no, that's really true. And it's the influencers that make the difference. So we talked about the public, you know, that's one of the biggest macro factors for carbon neutrality. It's not the IMO who set some good targets. It's not the legislators that follow on from that IPO. It's the public that demand the change. And from that public demand, you get great companies like Cargill. And I will give Cargill a massive shout out because, you know, they've helped us through this process. And why are they interested? They're a food production company. They're interested because they want their foods transported around the world in the most sustainable way. And why do they want that? Well, their customers demand that. So actually, it's that bubbling up of energy from ground roots, if you like, that really drives our industry. So yes, I love talking to shipping people, and having been in the business only for 4 years, just over, actually there's some brilliant people. There's some very warm people, but there's some, you know, actually, there's some very conservative people. So, you know, actually, I will add that to my list of adjectives because it's true. You know, we are all conservative in the shipping industry, and it takes other people to give us a bit of a shake, ask us to change. But there's lots of willing people, lots of brilliant engineers that can help us make that change.
What do you bring from automotive into the shipping industry? What do you, I mean, where did you see the differences?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, no, to be fair, you know, actually, hopefully I brought some energy from the automotive industry into the shipping industry. I have brought actually a few other staff. You know, the most things in the shipping industry, actually most mechanical components move slowly. Some things that are needed to move quickly. So a good example is the foils on our flying boat that I was telling you about earlier. They need to move quickly. And therefore, actually, we really needed some very strong control engineers, and you couldn't really find them in the shipping industry. So we brought them in from the automotive industry, aeronautics, you know, that kind of industry that's used to fast-moving components, and supplemented some very fantastic naval architects and stress engineers that have come from the shipping industry. So it's a blend that we brought together. Maybe we've learn a bit of publicity and that sort of thing from other industries, but you know, mainly it's the software engineering. We've bought people from fantastic companies like ProDrive and McLaren, stole a few back from them, and a couple of other good companies. Some of the defence businesses actually, people have been wanting to move out of that industry, and actually their maths and their software engineers are pretty good.
Yeah, I was expecting you to say software because I live in Gothenburg and all the automotive brands are here developing their software.
Yeah.
So we got more software engineers per square meter than Silicon Valley, some people say.
Is that right? So next time I'm recruiting, I'll stick a note out to everybody in Gothenburg.
Yeah, you just ask me and I will introduce you.
I think we haven't got a Swedish employee, Lena. So actually, I think we should do that.
I think you should, definitely. However, we have all the Chinese brands here as well. You know, we got Volvo Cars and all of those people.
Yeah. Yeah, I see Geely in there, that's for sure. That was a wise move by them, actually. The Chinese do have a history of buying really strong businesses to supplement their own technology. So, that's a stunning example of exactly that.
Yeah, I do a little bit work for them, so I get to listen to them. And also in Gothenburg, Ericsson has got their global 5G development.
Right.
So I get to know a lot of stuff, and I think this will come into the maritime industry sooner or later. So that is where my interest comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. WindWings, the Halo product maybe of the business, hasn't got many quickly moving parts because obviously it's reacting to the wind and changing its sails about every 20 minutes. But it has got some pretty complex electronics inside, the sensors and the accelerometers to determine the wind direction and speed, those being actually off the wings. But they do actually then control the position of the wings. So there is a little bit of that, but they're not that fast moving. That's safe for the crew transfer vessels and the flying electric boats.
How do you see the future of the maritime industry? I mean, we're changing in such fast pace now. So what's on the horizon?
Yeah, no, it is fast paced. On the horizon are many, many boats with Bartek WindWings on them. I can absolutely tell you that there are a lot of people looking for results. My main messages in WhatsApp and text are, can you give us the results of the Pyxis Ocean and the Berge Olympus? We've spoken to probably 100 customers and good prospects, and we'll be helping them change their legacy fleet because we will not abandon the legacy fleet. The most sustainable way of using a vessel is keep using it rather than building new ones. So actually the fuel used to build a new vessel is quite large. But having said that, so we're looking at hundreds of retrofits, as we were talking earlier, but then actually moving into some new build designs, which we're also talking to yards and to owners. Those forward-thinking owners are now demanding wind propulsion on their new vessels. You fast forward 2 years, and I honestly believe this, but it does raise eyebrows that I think that 50% of bulkers and tankers that are commissioned in 2 years' time will have wind propulsion built in. So we'll be then changing the hull forms to make them hybrid hulls, because at the moment we're putting wings on motoring hulls, and we'll be changing powertrains such that we can harness all of the wind rather than having to run big combustion engines on slow steaming RPM. So there's lots to look forward to in the future, and we're already chatting to these big engine manufacturers, the MANs and the Wärtsiläs and those kind of guys.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. How do they view you as collaboration partners or some sort of competitors?
No, actually, we're wind assist, although we can power the ship. So at the moment, we mark ourselves as wind-assisted propulsion systems. I'm going to move towards actually talking about main propulsion. Gavin Albright, who's an unbelievable leader of our industry, he talks about WAPs, and he's absolutely right. At the moment, we have to have a combustion engine or some form of other propulsion, quite rightly, for class rules. And I think that will always be the case. But I'd like to shift the dial a little bit with our technology, which is, going to dominate, that actually we can be the main propulsion for the vessel, backed up by a smaller amount of power from a powertrain. So that is going to be the future, that's for sure. And I don't think that the MANs and the Wärtsiläs, they're not competitors of ours. They have to sell their engines or fuel cells in the future, whatever it might be. And we can continue to assist the vessel, moving from secondary power to primary power. But actually, the ships will always need some form of alternative propulsion.
Who would you be interested in listening to? Who do you think I should talk to the next?
Well, I listen to clearly my potential customers as to what they really want. So we've been on a journey with Cargill. and Mitsubishi showed us an amazing amount of faith by saying, you can put those on our ship if you like. So Mitsubishi Corporation, I'd love to hear from them, although we still talk to them, but I think that'd be a very interesting show for you. Cargill, there's a guy called Keith Dorr, who I call the daddy of this project. He's a very good guy. He's now a personal friend. He's helped us drive this forward. It's been our vision. When I say our vision, I mean Bartek and Cargill in that, to bring this to fruition. So that might be an interesting interview. He's a shy guy, but a very, very clever guy. If I were you, I would grab him and I'll send you his email address so you can ask him whether he'd like to do it. But he's a very strong guy. And then we got James Marshall at Berge Bulk. So there's a guy that's got a plan called the Marshall Plan, and he's so embarrassed by it because it sounds like it's an egotistical name. But we laugh about it because they call it a war on climate change. So the Marshall Plan's quite a military term, as you probably know. But their company, and obviously their marketing department came up with that, but they run the Marshall Plan, which is a war on climate change. And WindWings is part of that. And he didn't wait for a charterer. So Cargill are obviously a charterer, brilliant company. They were finding owners to try and put WindWings on. James was even one step ahead of them and said, this is what's right. I'm going to put it on my vessel, and the charterers will then take note. So there's a visionary for you, and it's not just wind propulsion, it's shaft generation, it's high-tech sealant paints, it's all sorts of things that are going on their vessels. They'll be one of the first to press the button on new builds with WindWings, I would think. So he might be worth a chat to as well.
Thank you.
And then get Greta on, see what she thinks. The biggest decarbonisation person on this planet. I'd love to chat to her.
Yeah, she's facing fines now, or maybe jail, because she's been protesting in an oil harbour in Malmö, in
absolutely.
south of Sweden.
I'd love to see what she thinks of wind propulsion, actually.
Unfortunately, she doesn't give any interviews. She's doing it.
Is that right? Is that right?
Yeah, I tried to get in contact, but no, they have their own agenda.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll send a public invite there.
Yes, why not? Okay, thank you, John.
You're very welcome.
I feel energized.
Me too.
By talking to you.
Lovely chatting to you. Really nice chatting to you. Great stimulation. Thanks for the questions, and thanks for your interest in Bartek, WindWings, and our other commodities, our other products. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Every conversation
matters.
Thank you, John. I find it interesting to hear about new initiatives and innovative environments and where people do actually collaborate. And as you said, you are bringing something from another industry into ours. Dear listener, if you're interested in wind, please also listen to episode 202 with Niklas Dahl, the managing director of Oceanbird. I want to take this opportunity to thank you, all of you who have written to me or commented on YouTube and Facebook and sent me so much love after the last episode. I'm grateful to all of you, and it reminds me that I'm not just speaking into a black hole. I haven't had time to assemble any survey yet, but I will let you know when it's out there for you to answer. And I can't really imagine how much interesting news I would hear about you once I get it up and running. So that's all for now. Until the next time, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a shipping podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.